Hello and welcome into the first edition of the SunDevilSource series recap show for this ASU baseball season. We are inside Phoenix Municipal Stadium. I'm Jacob Brooks alongside Gabby Chernoff. And Gabby, ASU officially completed the three-game sweep of Ohio State today here on Sunday. 27 combined runs in this contest that lasted nearly 4.5 hours. What were your takeaways from today and just from the overall series for ASU?
Well, like you said, almost a 4.5 hour game. Some of the players we talked to after the fact said this was definitely the longest game they've played in their collegiate careers. But tonight's affair especially was just a really good display of grit by the Sun Devils. Ohio State was not really making it very easy on themselves, but they still found a way to make it a really close game. Willie Bloomquist said that that's a very good team, that he expects to win a lot of games this season, and they're a team that can really rally together and pull out some of those comeback wins. At one point in the sixth inning, it was 10-2 Sun Devils. The final score in this one did end up being 17-10 in favor of the Sun Devils, so they did secure that opening weekend sweep against the Ohio State Buckeyes. 14 walks on the bullpen side for Ohio State. ASU walked 14 times, so definitely Ohio State, like I said, not making it easy on themselves, but they still found a way to make it close, and ASU was able to pull out the victory in the end.
So, Gabby, you talked about the bullpen struggles for Ohio State, but Willie Bloomquist, he kept it very blunt with everyone in the post-game presser. He was not impressed with his own bullpen's performance. ASU had to turn to a ton of different pitchers today that they were trying to keep fresh for tomorrow's game. They had to rotate through a ton of guys. Ohio State came back in the game with multiple innings, with multiple runs in the back half of the game. What do you make of the Sun Devils bullpen right now as it stands?
Yeah, it's kind of ironic that that this happened this weekend, and that Willie Bloomquist had very high praise for this bullpen and how deep it was going to be and how talented and exceptional it was in the fall and in the spring preseason. A lot of the offense and the hitters said that they were kind of getting tired of facing the same arms, and Willie Bloomquist said they did a really good job against their own teammates in the preseason activities. And so you wanted to reserve guys like Lucas Kelly and Derek Schaefer for tomorrow's game that they're playing against Austin Peay, but you weren't able to do so. So that's one of the biggest things that Willie Bloomquist said he's learning about this team, that he did learn about this team through its first weekend, is they're finding guys who can do certain specific things well in situations and throwing strikes and striking out guys when that needs to be done. And so, yeah, not the greatest performance by the ASU bullpen this weekend after receiving some pretty high praise from Willie Bloomquist in the preseason, but definitely some things to adjust going into tomorrow and then another home series next weekend.
A bright spot for ASU in this game, though, Gabby, was the offense. The stolen bases. ASU had 5 stolen bases, highlighted by Kian Vu, who had a single in the bottom of the first inning and then somehow stole his way all the way to home to be ASU's first run of the game. ASU was just dialed in on that front. ASU had 8 of the 9 players in its lineup get a hit today. That is just an absurd amount of firepower, 33 total runs on the series against Ohio State. How much of that red-hot offensive firepower do you think carries over for this squad?
Yeah, Jacob, like you said, a red-hot offense for the Sun Devils this weekend. There were a couple of guys that really stepped up. A monster weekend from Brandon Compton. He had that walk-off double last night, and then another home run early in this one as well. Josiah Cromwell had a really good weekend at the dish. 4 guys who batted over 300, so that's some really good offensive consistency, and those guys that stepped up tonight have also been really consistent just throughout the entire weekend. So if they can stay consistent, especially in the top half of that lineup throughout the duration of the season, then that'll bode really well for Willie Bloomquist and this Arizona State offense.
So Willie Bloomquist has talked about how coming off of 3 straight seasons not making the postseason, the longest for ASU in many, many decades, this squad has expectations to go to Omaha this year. Coming off of a 3-0 sweep against an Ohio State squad that, regardless of the final scores, in the post-game pressers, Willie made clear that he thinks is a team that is very talented and is going to win a lot of games this year. How does that create the outlook for ASU moving forward this season?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just self-driven and self-motivation from the guys in this lineup. All 9 of these guys in the order this weekend, they're older, and Willie Bloomquist said he didn't really want to look ahead into the future, looking into next year, but he was losing a majority of those guys to the draft or to being out of eligibility going into next year. So a lot of these older guys are really wanting to step up so they can make that postseason. It's a lot of it is just coming from within. The buy-in, I think, on this team, from the sense that I've gotten, a lot of them had said this is the most together team they feel like they've been a part of, the closest team they feel like they've ever been a part of. So I think that will translate into, hopefully, if you're the Sun Devils, a little bit of consistency as you make that push for the postseason. But yeah, an older roster, and the offense especially performed really well this weekend, and so that should really bode well for Willie Bloomquist and his Sun Devils as they look to that push for the postseason.
Well, only time will tell, Gabby, how ASU is able to build off of this 3-game sweep of Ohio State. But for now, that's all that we've got for the SunDevilSource series recap show, the first one of a very long ASU baseball season. To keep up with all of our ASU baseball coverage, make sure to check out SunDevilSource.com and all of our different SunDevilSource socials. From Phoenix Muni, I'm Jacob Brooks, that's Gabby Chernoff, and we're saying so long.